Okay, so tonight's Torah portion, of course, Bamidbar, Bamidbar, which is in the wilderness, which is the book of Numbers. And the book of Numbers isn't called the book of Numbers in Hebrew. It's called in the wilderness. Why is it called the book of Numbers in our Bible? Because it has to do with numbering a census, taking a census of the people of Israel. We'll talk about that tonight, of course. So Hebrew, I got 3 Hebrew words for you tonight for your consideration. And the first one is pachad. Pachad, which is to number. To number. And it really means to appoint. To appoint. Not number to a point, but to appoint. So the word pachad really is to appoint someone. But it's also used in reference to numbering the people. I think 19 times it's used to appoint, and quite a few more times it's used to number. There's another word for number, which is mishpah. Mishpah, which is to amount or to tally. So you get a couple of words for number that's used in the book of Numbers, chapter 1. Again, one is pachad, which is to appoint. I'm saying a point, it sounds like I'm saying to a point, but that's not what I'm saying. And the second word is mishpah, again, which is to tally. The third Hebrew word I have for you tonight is found in tonight's Torah portion. It's translated in English as ransom. Ransom is not really a good word as it relates to the actual Hebrew word. The actual Hebrew word is peduyim. Now, the word peduyim sounds like an English word that we know. What's that English word that we know? Peduyim, as it relates to ransom, payment. Pedium, right? So we know the English word pedium. What does the word pedium mean? Pedium, to pay, a payment. And so, no question, it came from the Hebrew word peduyim, which is to pay. All right? A lot of the English words we have has, of course, Hebrew roots to the words. Many. And I'm pretty convinced that this is one. So 3 Hebrew words for us tonight. Pachad, to number, to appoint. Mishpah, to tally, to count. And peduyim, which is to ransom. All right, so those are 3. I'll be doing a test next week, and I'll want to know next week what were the 3 words that we looked at. So 3 points of interest tonight. Numbers chapter 1 to 4:20 is the Torah portion tonight. We're going to see the first point of interest would be men of war. And we will look at that as it relates to the age expectation, the age by which someone will come into the category as a soldier, as a man of war. The second point of interest would be, we'd be looking at the firstborn in Israel, which will be sanctified to God. The Pinyan Habib, I think is what it is in Hebrew, might be wrong about that. You'll have to check me out. And then the third point of interest has to do with the Levites and tabernacle service. Their responsibility as it relates to the tabernacle, how they are positioned around the tabernacle, and for what purpose. So the first point of interest, men of war, which is what the book of Numbers begins with. So it begins with the announcement of a census, which is where we get the idea of the numbering process. So let's go to Numbers chapter 1. In Numbers chapter 1, we're going to read 1 to 3. Yep. 1 to 3. Then the Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the tent of meeting on the first of the 2nd month in the 2nd year after they had come out from the land of Egypt, saying, take a census of all the congregation of the sons of Israel by their families, by their fathers' households, according to the number of names, every male, head by head. So, to number. All right, the word there to number is, again, mishpah, to tally. And it is to be done, it's a census. All right? Also, it's from the age of 20 and upwards. So you begin your service as a man of Israel from the age of 20. Does it say that in what we just read? No. Yeah, but in 3. Let's read 3. From 20 years old and upward, whoever is able to go out to war in Israel, you and Aaron shall number them by their armies. Yep, I had that to read. So, all right, so that's it right there. From the age of 20 and upwards, all of the males of Israel. What I want to draw your reference to there is that there is no cap. You come in when you're 20, but you theoretically, you fight until you die. Isn't that interesting that there is no cap to the age category? You just come in at 20. So how do we feel about that? In our society, what would we do with something like that? We would provide for the elderly, right? We would provide for the elderly that they shouldn't go out and fight. When you're 60 or 65, there's a cap. That's what we would do, and that's what we do, right? Our fighting men are typically between the ages of 18 and 40. You don't really go out in the army to fight after 40 unless you're a mercenary or special forces. So we do things a little differently than what God had planned for Israel. God planned that the Israelite would fight as long as there was strength in him. So how can we consider that as it relates to us? Let's think about King David. King David, he was a warrior, fought wonderfully throughout his life. He was an intense warrior. He killed a lion and a bear. He killed Goliath. He killed Philistines. He was a man of war. But towards the end of his life, or even before the end of his life, he was counseled to stay out of the battle. Right? Remember that? The wise man told him, lest the light of Israel be put out, you should not go into battle. And King David said, okay. Now, how do we feel about that? King David got into trouble because he was not on the battlefield. Right? He ended up on a different battlefield, sort of a spiritual battlefield, where he lost miserably. Because he surrendered to counsel that was not of God. He should have stayed a warrior king as long as there was strength in his body, and he didn't. The rest of his life, we see a weaker King David. We see a King David that wasn't, but maybe a shadow of who he was when he was a younger man. So my position with that is King David should have remained a warrior king as long as there was life in his body, as long as there was strength. He should have remained a warrior king. God would have sustained him. What do you think? God said it. All of the Israelite men from the age of 20 and up are to be prepared for battle, prepared for the work of the kingdom. Age is not a factor from God's perspective. So if from God's perspective age is not a factor, then why are we retiring? Why is King David setting up his shield and his sword? Because he took wrong counsel. So how do we apply that in our own lives? How do we deal with that reality that God did not expect that the man of Israel would not ever put down his sword? Now, first of all, if you were 80-year-old Israelite at that time, you had to be in shape. If you were wounded or if you had some infirmity, then okay, that's understandable. But if you were an Israelite at that time, you had to be in working shape and fighting form, because to dig a well, there wasn't necessarily always 12 sons with you to help you dig wells, right, or to defend your property. So you had to keep yourself in decent shape. The Israelite had to, or he would die. So in many, many cases, it's live, function, fight, or die. And that's the way they lived. And that was designed by God. So the Israelite had the opportunity to really trust God towards the twilight years of his life, that God will sustain him. We have examples such as Moses, right? Abraham stayed vital, stayed engaged until he died. We don't know what the end of Abraham's life was like, but surely, of course, there would be a period of time when you'll have to sit down and die, whether it's a year, 2 years, or whatever, but there will come that time when you will stop. You'll no longer be picking up the sword, you'll just wait to die. So you fight and die. That's the way of the kingdom. You enter into the kingdom, you fight, you engage, you serve, And then, when you're not able to do anymore, you lay down and die. Is that absurd? God said it. From 20 years and up. He didn't say from 20 years to 50 or 20 years to 60. He said from 20 years and up. So for us, for me, how do I relate to this? I say to myself, I have to remain physically vital. I have to remain in fighting shape. I have to be able, even at, I'm 60 now, but even at 70, I have to be able to pick up the weapon. I have to be able to engage. So for that, I keep myself fit. I keep myself healthy. Healthy in what way? I'm speaking now in terms of physicality. I have to keep myself physically fit. So, you know, I'm going to the gym again. Yay. What a wonderful thing, right? Go to that gym. It's sort of it's a battle to go to the gym. Let me say this. It is a battle to go to the gym, both physically and spiritually. It's not a pleasant place, but I endure it. You know, I'm always looking at ways to improve health in terms of diet, what we eat. Not diet, because, you know, the American way of looking at diet is to lose weight. That's not necessarily what diet is about. Diet has to do with what you eat. Are you being well nourished? Are you getting enough antioxidants? You can be 10 pounds overweight or 15 pounds overweight and more healthy than the person who is a frail stick. But the American way is healthy is skinny. So you diet so you can lose weight. No, diet is about keeping yourself vital, keeping yourself well nourished, having a balanced diet, in other words. So you take care of that aspect of your life, the physical aspect of your life. You do what's necessary so you can continue on. You know, I had a cut on my toe, and it's healing up pretty well. And along the way, I said, you know what, if I'm not diabetic, praise God. And I thought to myself, you know, diabetes is such a plague in the American culture right now. And it has to do with diet, what we eat and what we don't eat, if you understand what I'm saying. What we don't put into our bodies and what we do put into our bodies is why we're sick. It's why we deal with diabetes, cancers, and all sorts of other diseases. So I thought about it. I said, you know what, a good barometer as to if I'm diabetic or even approaching diabetic is the fact that I'm going to heal up easily. If I don't heal up easily, then that's an indicator that you're borderline. So I healed up pretty easily, praise God. I healed up pretty easily. I do have a fractured toe or something, but there's nothing I can do about it. Just wait for it to heal. So praise God, I keep, you know, take care of yourselves. You know, the example that's been set before us for decades is Pastor Ken. He was on that, what's that machine called? The skier machine. And he used to tell us that he wouldn't stop until he perspires for at least half an hour. Well, he had no idea how ahead of the times he was, because that's what we have to do. That's what, when we, again, like I've been saying to you, when we perspire like that, we send out so many signals or chemical signals to our body that's really, really important for our health. So keep yourself vital before God, and you will live on to serve Him. You never, ever put down the sword in the kingdom. Now, the other way by which we remain healthy and vital is by staying in His Word. Stay in His Word. Love His Word. Yes, I'm talking about your Bible. I'm not talking about your phone. Many of us, we go to our phone for our Bible. If that's what you do, that's fine. But there's something special about a Bible, actual Bible. There's something really, really special about a Bible. So love your Bible, love the Word. Get into the Word. Feed your soul, nourish your soul, because this longevity that I'm talking about, it's not just physical, it's spiritual. Some might say, and I certainly would, that the spiritual aspect of our longevity is more important than our physical longevity. Don't you think so? It's King David, right? So he was dealing with physical issues, perhaps towards the end of his life. The Psalms seem to indicate that he was dealing with spiritual issues. Nevertheless, his real ailment was spiritual towards the end of his life. The situation with Bathsheba, even though he recovered from it. But that took a toll on him, don't you think? He became a man of bloodshed. You know, King David, what a powerful testimony, right? We can't come close to owning such a wonderful testimony. But he should have never gotten off the battlefield. His work as a king, a warrior king, was from the age of 20 all the way, and that's God's way. So stay fit, remain vital, fit physically and spiritually. Let's talk about the second point of interest here in regards how it relates to the firstborn. The firstborn. What happened in Egypt? Remember that story in Egypt? The firstborn of all the sons of all the people of Egypt died, not just the people, but the animals as well. And God did that thing. It was the final plague that he brought upon the Egyptians, that all of the firstborn in Egypt should die. That was a pretty radical move on the part of God. But he's God. He can do that. Everything belongs to him, right? So he can do as he wishes. And he decided that the firstborn in Egypt will die. Even the animals, even the cattle, they will die as well. Now, what did God do in regards to Israel? He said, as a result of what I did in Egypt with the Egyptians, we'll read that here in a few moments, I'm going to require your firstborn. I'm going to require your firstborn. I believe the Hebrew phrase is the pinyan habib. I'm going to require your firstborn, just like I required the firstborn of the Egyptians, to set you free. Now your firstborn will serve me. Let's read. Now what we'll see tonight is that God decided that he would take the Levites, the sons of Levi, instead of the firstborn in Israel. Why? I've got a really good answer. I don't have a clue why. But he did. Why the Levites? Why not Judah? I don't have an idea. It could be as simple as because Moses was of the tribe of Levi, and Moses was the one anointed to carry out this work. So who knows? But he chose the tribe of Levi to be the replacement. The substitute, there's a better word there somewhere. There's a better word for the firstborn in Israel. So let's read. The better word should come to me. So in Numbers chapter 3 now, we're going to read 11 to 13. Again, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Now, behold, I have taken the Levites from among the sons of Israel instead of every firstborn. There it is, instead. Simple word, instead of every firstborn. The first issue of the womb belonged to the sons of Israel. So the Levites shall be mine. For all the firstborn are mine. On the day that I struck down the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I sanctified to myself all the firstborn in Israel, from man to beast. They shall be mine. I am the Lord. So he's saying, I'm taking the Levites, the sons of Levi, in place of the firstborn. He made a decision. That's an executive decision. God is more than able to make that decision. And so, why do you think we can't say why. We can't answer that question. But why do you think he made that move? Instead of having all of the firstborn to be devoted to him, sanctified, the word there is kadash, sanctified unto him, holy unto him, he chose the Levites. Maybe it was just more practical. Maybe it would just be a neater process. Or maybe that's part of his overall plan of redemption. That there would be one tribe that would be the priestly tribe, and from that one tribe he would choose a priesthood, which we'll see later on tonight is Aaron and his sons. All right, so let's continue in this focus here right now. So the number of the sons of Levi and the number of the sons of the firstborn in Israel, we'll see here at this time was very close. Within 273 people, sons, the number was extremely close. What I'm saying is the actual number of the firstborn in Israel was 273, and the number of the firstborn among the sons of Levi from 5 months upward was 2,000. So you only had a differential of 273. So that's kind of interesting that the numbers are real close between the firstborn in Israel from the age of 5 months and up and the sons of Levi from 5 months and up. So it's an interesting thing that's happening here. And I'm not sure exactly what is, but something interesting is happening. Let's read a little bit. So in regards to the firstborn, that differential in the numbers, chapter 3, 38 to 43, 44. Let's just read 43. Now those who were to camp before the tabernacle eastward, before the tent of meeting, towards the sunrise, are Moses and Aaron and his sons. This is the Kohanim. So directly eastward at the tabernacle, before the rising sun, pointing eastward, would be the Kohanim, the sons of Aaron, Aaron and his sons, right? That's what it's referring to. Performing the duties of the sanctuary for the obligation of the sons of Israel, but the layman coming near was to be put to death. Pretty intense, right? If you're not a part of the Kohanim, don't come close to God. All the numbered men of the Levites, whom Moses and Aaron numbered at the command of the Lord by their families, every male from a month old and upwards, not 5 months, a month old and upwards, were 22,000. So actually, I had it backwards. There's 22,000 for the sons of Israel. No, Levites, I had it right. The sons of Levi. Maybe I should have read it first, right? So the sons of Levi who were ready for service as priests were 22. What am I saying? Not 2,000, 22,000. It's always better to read the text than try to commit it to memory. All right, so let's clean this up. So the sons of Aaron who were ready for priesthood from 1 month old and upwards was 22,000. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, number every firstborn male of the sons of Israel from a month and upward, and make a list of their names. Wow, what a task that is, huh? You shall take the Levites for me. I am the Lord. Instead of all the firstborn among the sons of Israel, and the cattle and the Levites instead, and the cattle of the Levites, instead of all the firstborn among the cattle of the sons of Israel. So God was requiring exactly what he required from the Egyptians. There's something there to unpack. He was requiring of Israel exactly what he required of the Egyptians, the firstborn and the firstborn cattle as well. So what does that tell us about God? He made such an incredible action on behalf of the people of Israel when he destroyed the firstborn in Egypt and all of the cattle along with it for the sake of redemption. Now he's requiring this from Israel. Any ideas? What is this telling us about God? I know you have ideas about it. So what does it tell you about God, the nature of God, the character of God?
He's not a respecter of persons.
I'm sorry?
He's not a respecter of persons.
Not a respecter of persons, yeah.
Consistent.
Consistent, that's right. He's very consistent. Anything else? The person of God reflected in this action. He's just. He's just. He did something with the Egyptians that I'm convinced he did not want to do. It's God's will that no one should perish, but everyone should repent. The Egyptians would not repent, and so he took this action. Now he's committing the firstborn in Israel and their cattle. But here he's saying, instead of the firstborn, I'm going to take the Levites. So Moses numbered all the firstborn among the sons of Israel, just as the Lord had commanded him. He also had to make a list of all their names. And all the firstborn males by the number of the names from a month old and upwards, for their numbered men, were 2,273. So you have a differential there of 273. What we see here is that God is going to require what's the word? Peduyim, in other words, for the excess 273. That's sort of intriguing, isn't it? That he's going to require a peduyim, for the 273. What do you think's happening here? What do you think this is about? I don't know. I'm asking. I'm genuinely trying to figure this out myself. He's going to require a payment, a per diem, for the 273 extra sons of the nation, sons of the nation of Israel. It's to be paid to the Kohanim, or to the temple service. Interesting. Let's read some more. 45 to 51 in regards to the per diem, the pedoim. Take the Levites, instead of all the firstborn among the sons of Israel, and the cattle of the Levites, and the Levites shall be mine. I am the Lord. For the ransom, the pedoim, the ransom of 273 of the firstborn of the sons of Israel, who are in excess beyond the Levites. You shall take 5 shekels apiece per head. You shall take them in terms of the shekel of the sanctuary. The shekel is 20 gerahs, whatever that is. And give the money, the ransom, the per diem, to those who are in excess among them, to Aaron and to his sons, is to be given to them. So Moses took the ransom, the per diem, the ransom money, from those who were in excess, beyond those ransomed by the Levites. From the firstborn of the sons of Israel, he took the money in terms of the shekel of the sanctuary. 1,365 was the sheklim. Then Moses gave the ransom, the per diem, money to Aaron and to his sons, and the command of the Lord, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. Isn't this interesting? That God is exacting. Could we say that God is an exacting God? Yes, there are many times we see him as an exacting God. When he wants something a certain way, there's a purpose for it, and usually we don't know what the purpose is, we're just to carry it out. The things of God are usually way beyond us for comprehension, for understanding. And we humans, we fallen humans, we like to believe that we've got God figured out. You know, you frame yourself in the context of a religion, Christianity. You frame yourself in the context of a religion, and you say, okay, I got everything figured out. Anything outside of this is confusing to me. It's too much, and so if something comes up, I have to find a way to define it. Some things you can't define. And many things concerning God exist outside of your context, outside of your box of Christianity. And here is one of the greatest downfalls of Christianity. Greatest downfalls of Christianity. We must define everything based on our own understanding. And if something is beyond us, we'll find a way to figure it out. And the next thing we'll do is we'll establish a doctrine. The next thing we'll do is we'll compel everyone to follow that doctrine. Why? Why do we compel people to believe what we believe? Because we're afraid. We're afraid that we're wrong, and we'll be discovered as being wrong. God is outside of our boxes, way outside of our boxes. Yes, he seems to be exacting here. 273 people, men, sons of Israel in excess will pay Aaron and their sons because they are becoming the firstborn. They're becoming the Pinyan Habib, the ones who will serve God, and they deserve that money. It's there. It's interesting, right? So the Pinyan Habib, I think, is what it is in Hebrew. So the Levites are devoted to God. Now, the priesthood, I think the picture here that we ought to see is that the priesthood belongs to God. They are completely devoted to God, consecrated to God. God owns the priesthood, right? And it goes back to what happened in Egypt. The blood, the life that was taken. Now, as it relates to us in Messiah, we are a priesthood, right? We are taken from all the nations. Revelation chapter 5, verse 10. And he has purchased for God with his blood a people from every kindred, tongue, and nation to be a kingdom and priests, Kohanim. So this relates to what he did in Egypt and what he's doing here with the Kohanim. You see, because by the blood of his son, through his life being spent, we are purchased to be that priesthood, belonging to God, holy unto God, right? That's what the high priest would have on, that's not just the high priest, but holy unto God was representative of all of the priesthood. Every son of Aaron, all of the Kohanim were devoted to God, purchased by blood spent. So the church is that priesthood. And ultimately, the church will stand in that place of being a kingdom and priests, holy unto God. And all of the nations will see the priesthood for what it is. The Kohanim, the heavenly Kohanim. Would there be an earthly priesthood? I thought about going this route and sharing this with you, and I said, maybe not, but I'll share this with you. God has two priests in the earth. On Sunday, we'll talk about Shavuot, God's two peoples, God's two anointed vessels, the two loaves of bread. Zechariah chapter 4, God has two anointed peoples in the earth, the people of Israel and the church. Now, what about God saying to Israel that you will be a nation of priests? Did God say that to Israel? Exodus chapter 19, that you will be a nation of priests. Of course. Was he mistaken? Did Israel's sin negate Israel from becoming a nation of priests? No, the gifts and callings are irrevocable. So, based on that, Israel is a nation of priests and will function that way. What about the church? We are a nation of priests as well. Wait a minute, there's a pressure here. Who's the priesthood? It's us or them, right? It's us or them. They got to become like us. Right? Got to go convert some Jews. Make them like us. It's the only way. But it seems as if the Bible's indicating that God has two anointed vessels. What did the angel say to Zechariah in Zechariah chapter 4? These are the two anointed ones standing, same word, serving alongside the Lord of the whole earth. Who is this? Moses and Elijah? No. Two anointed vessels serving on either side of the Lord of the whole earth. The church in Israel. Yes. And this, in time, will become more manifest and more obvious, and more manifest is the best word I can find, will become more manifest in the earth. It will happen. It's already forming right before us. So, God's anointed vessels, the church and Israel, we are the ones. We are, and that's what Shavuot is really all about, isn't it? So this is just an interesting point. We're paid for. We're a priesthood. Is Israel paid for? Absolutely. Are we paid for? Absolutely. I've encountered people who felt a little bit squirmish about the word pay as it relates to redemption for Jesus. Jesus, God paid for my redemption? That just doesn't feel right. I don't like it. It sounds like commerce. It's evil. Have you encountered anyone like that? Yeah, I have. You know, God didn't pay for anything with the blood of his son. That's too pagan. But Revelation chapter 5 verse 10 is clear. Based on the words spoken to John by Jesus himself. A people paid for by the blood of Jesus. Called out from every kindred, tongue, and nation to become a priesthood. Yes, we are a priesthood, and so is Israel. The Bible does not lie. It is correct. There will be two priesthoods. There will be a priesthood within a priesthood. And the whole entire nation of Israel will be that priesthood. A priesthood to the nations. There will be the Kohanim, the inner Kohanim. The church will be that Kohanim that will stand in God's proximity. In fact, that's the next point of interest that we'll talk about right now. So the next point of interest has to do with the function of the Kohanim and their proximity to God. What do we know about the Kohanim as it related to the tabernacle and their proximity to God? You had the tabernacle, right? It faced east. The entrance to the tabernacle faced east. Directly in front of the tabernacle, you had the Kohanim stationed around the tabernacle. The Kohanim who were Aaron and Moses. right? And his sons, not Moses' sons. So you had Merari, Gershon, and Kohath. These were the other sons of Levi. Their position was around the tabernacle, but not on the east side, on the north side, the west side, and on the south side. So the tabernacle was surrounded by Levites. But the Merarites and the Gershonites and the Korahites were not eastward of the tabernacle because they were not the Kohanim. The Kohanim, the sons of Aaron, were the ones who ministered in the closest proximity to God. But all of the Levites were within close proximity to God. Their functions were different. As it related to the function of the sons of Aaron, they had the duty of the tabernacle within the tabernacle. They keeping the menorah lit, keeping the oil fresh, table of showbread, keeping the bread fresh and cycled, burning of incense, the altar of incense, and on the day of atonement, they would go before the Ark of the Covenant. So this is the Kohanim. The other Levites had other responsibilities relative to the tabernacle. The moving of the tabernacle, the building of the tabernacle, the function of the tabernacle itself were given to the other Levites. Now, so you have a priesthood there, and in that priesthood you have another priesthood, in effect, the Kohanim and the other sons of Levi. Well, that's a picture of what things will shake out to be in the age to come. You would have two priesthood or two levels of priesthood serving God. You'll have the church, because we are that priesthood. God said it. God said through Ezekiel that he will choose another Kohanim, another priesthood. At the end of the book of Isaiah, God said that I will choose people from the nations to be priests unto me. Kohanim. But Israel is that priesthood to all the nations. So envision this. You have the church. Our position is in the tabernacle. We are the tabernacle during the millennial kingdom and in the new creation. We are the tabernacle. And outside of the tabernacle is Israel, a nation of priests. The church is the holy priesthood. Why? Because we have proximity to God. Israel, the nations, priesthood. So God has two priesthoods. And this does relate to Shavuot. We'll talk about that a little more on Sunday. So here we have now the Kohanim. All right. So outside of the Kohanim, you had the sons of Israel, right? You have Zebulun, Issachar, Judah. On the east side, you had Naphtali, Asher, Dan. On the, what side would that be? If that's the east side, on the north side, you have Gad, Simeon, and Reuben. On the south side, you have Benjamin, Manasseh, and Ephraim on the east side. This is God's arrangement. Now, in the New Jerusalem, right? We all know about the New Jerusalem. It's a cube, 1,500 miles cube. What an incredible structure that will be, is being prepared. And when God introduces it, he will introduce it to a new world or in a new world. He's going to recreate this earth and recreate the creation itself. All things will be made new. All things will be done away with. New things will come into existence. A new creation. We don't know what that new creation would be like, but we know that it will be fantastic when we see it. But that new Jerusalem will descend right at the center of this new world and will be Jerusalem, the new Jerusalem. Now, in this new Jerusalem, this new temple that God is preparing, there are 12 gates, aren't they? There are 12 gates. And the 12 gates are for the 12 tribes of Israel. That's what it says. So you have the same construct as what we see in the tabernacle. 12 gates, 12 tribes of Israel. On each side, there were 3 gates for each of the tribes of Israel. Now, as it relates to the New Jerusalem, the apostles, the names of the apostles are also on each of the gates. So what can we make of that? There are 12 apostles, right? So is Peter's name going to be on one of those, and John and all of the Matthew, he's going to have a gate perhaps. But I take that to mean simply that the church is going to be at the gates. The apostles All right, so if you look at it in a certain light, the church that we have today is the work of the 12 initial apostles. The church, the work of the 12 apostles. So yes, perhaps each apostle will have their name on one of the gates, perhaps, but each gate is representative of Christianity, and there will be 12 of them. Right? So you have 12 gates. In the ancient world, what is a gate? What does a gate represent? When one sits at the gate, what does he do? He is the judge. All right? You were not welcome to sit at the gate if you were not the king or the judge. So the judge will sit at the gate, and he will judge the people as they come in. Right? And this is what we're seeing. Each of the gates for Israel, 12 of them, and 12 thrones at the 12 gates, where we will sit and we will judge the people of Israel. We will rule the people of Israel. We think in fallen terms of judgment as with a whip. You know, you're going to pay for what you've done. That's how we think of judgment. Well, judgment in an unfallen creation is to serve God, to serve Him. We become servants. So in the age to come, we, the church, will judge, will rule, will serve Israel in this new creation. Did Jesus say anything like this, or am I just reaching? Did Jesus say something about this? Where did he say something about this? Matthew chapter 19. He said it. Those of you who have overcome in this life will, in the age to come, sit upon 12 thrones and rule, judge, serve the tribes of Israel. He's talking about the millennial kingdom, and he's talking about the new creation. You are the priesthood. You will serve Israel. And that's the reality of our Christianity, folks. Have you ever heard this message in your standard Christian church? I challenge you. Sukkot is Sunday. This Sunday is Pentecost. Traverse, if you can somehow, every church that's posted on the internet, that has their services posted on the internet. Traverse. Do the work if you want to challenge me on this. And you tell me if any one of those churches that you would find on the internet put any emphasis on the reality of Shavuot. And beyond that, the fulfillment of what God is doing with Shavuot. Or even what I talked about tonight. Not one church is going to emphasize on it. Is that a travesty, or am I just completely wrong? Are we completely wrong? Now, I'm talking about nominal Christianity. I'm talking about conventional Christianity, of course. There are churches that will do this, but they're not in the limelight. They're not well known. And perhaps that's the way it should be. Perhaps we should not be in the limelight. I certainly don't want to be in the limelight. But it's the Word of God. It's what God is doing today. The challenge for us is to put away our Christianity. That comes down to it. That's the challenge for us. Some of us are loyal to Christianity, and we're missing the reality of who we really are. And we got strong feelings about this. We get annoyed whenever the pastor gets up and talk about this, because we want to defend Christianity. You must know what it is that you want to defend. Know the history of conventional Christianity. See it with your own eyes. Discover how corrupt it is and how much a part of the world system it has become. And ask yourself, do you really want to identify as a Christian in a nominal sense? We talked about the Nord Stream tonight. No, don't move the camera. We talked about the Nord Stream tonight. That's who we are, folks. That's who we are. We are disciples of Jesus who are faithful to the Word of God. We keep the Shabbat. We celebrate the festivals. We rejoice in the goodness of God's kingdom. That's what the early Nord Stream did, the early church. That identifies us as Nazarene. What are Christians doing? Something entirely different. It was Christianity that destroyed the Nazarene, that crushed them. Yes, the same Christianity that you want to defend. I'm not talking about individual Christians. I'm talking about the Christianity. I'm talking about the conventionality. Its place is the lake of fire. There's no hope for it because it has become a beast. It has become a government. It has become a system that's working against God. There's no hope for it. It does not belong. It's an apostasy. What did God do with the northern kingdom? That apostasy. He destroyed it completely. It should have never existed. But it did. How did it come into existence? By the sword. You are anathema. You are Judaizers, folks. Anathema. You know what anathema means? There's no hope for you. There's no hope for you. You are in the eyes of Christianity. Painful? Yeah, it should be. Get over Christianity. Become a disciple of Jesus. It's a big difference. Shabbat Shalom.